I was raised in Memphis, Tennessee, which, a lot of people call that the Bible Belt. Not everybody knows what that means. But yeah, I was definitely raised, couldn't wear black, couldn't have these tattoos for sure. But, no rock and roll, nothing with drums. Drums was like the devil's instrument where I grew up. And so I kind of grew up in a very strict household. There were some really good things about it though, because I am a Christian. I believe in the Bible and I believe in the principles of the Bible and living by it. And as I got older, I just kind of said, a lot of the things that I'm being told I can't do, I don't really see in the Bible. And so I've obviously become my own person, and I play in a rock band. And I believe that music was created by God, not the devil. So I think the drums are a wonderful instrument. Faith is the most important thing in my life. Sometimes when I was younger, people would always say, hey, your faith has to be the most important thing, and then everything else is underneath it. And as I got older, I realized that faith isn't just number one, that faith is all encompassing. Whether it's me being a good husband, loving my wife, me being a good dad, taking the time to love my kids and not be selfish, because you realize how selfish you are when you have kids, because kids are really, especially babies, it's such hard work. In my music, the way that I treat people, the way that I always do good business. I never steal money from promoters in my business world. Always treat my fans good, treat people the way that I want to be treated. Faith to me is not just the most important thing, it is everything. It's the whole reason we're here, in my view, in the Bible's view, to bring pleasure to God. And I think that that's a real honor as one who was created to do so to the Creator. So that's how I see my life. I've been asked to be involved in certain things, film, that I wouldn't be comfortable with, but I'm comfortable with quite a lot, because I kind of feel like this is just my song. I don't mind if it's in a movie that I disagree with, but there are some things that are just out of bounds for me, and that would be if we're getting to a place that is supporting what I would consider to be like extreme violence, extreme love of death and things like that. I'm not into that. But I love being involved in things like, currently we're involved with WWE wrestling. Wrestling has been very good to me. They believed in us when no one else did, all the way back to our song Monster. They were the first people to play Monster, and now they're playing our new song Legendary as their theme song for Raw, which is huge for me. So I love partnering with sports, comics, WWE, film, things like that. But there have been times when I've just said, hey, that's just not something we can be a part of. And if it costs me money, I don't care, because again, life isn't about money. Life is about being comfortable with the decisions that you make, being proud of who you are, being able to stand behind your decisions is an important thing. I've had a really wonderful life, but I have had hard times like everybody else. My mom passed away when I was 14 from cancer, but it was also, the 80s, and cancer research, thank God, has come such a long way. But in the 80s, the chemotherapy was such a nightmare, and my mom was sick almost for 3 years. So from the time I was 11 to 14, I was around someone that was physically ill most of every day. And so you kind of got used to like seeing the feeling of death, the stench of death, if you will. Coming to a house and having someone that's on their deathbed for a couple of years is very difficult. And so I learned to deal with death at an early age. And that was hard, but it also began hard because I began fighting with my dad a lot. He was hurting, I was hurting, my brothers were hurting. And I really, at that point, had to realize that I needed to lean on God. And I didn't have anybody to talk to, I felt, so I would talk to God in my room at night. And I began to know Jesus as a friend. And so that's why I always tell people, I don't like to preach at people, but proselytize, But when people ask me, I always say, hey, Jesus wasn't just a savior to me, he became a friend to me, someone that I could tell, hey, I'm going through a hard time and this stinks pretty bad, and I feel all alone. I feel like no one is listening. And Jesus became a friend to me and a hope for me. And that has affected my songwriting, the book that I wrote for Eden, my comic book, all the things that I write about and talk about will all come back to my faith. I always liked that there was like the good versus evil thing. It might sound really cheesy, but it was always the idea that no matter how bad the world was going to get, that good was going to win. I always loved that concept, and it always made me feel powerful. You know, it was like that you can take on the world thing. So comics have always done that for me. Even when I was growing up in the 80s, comics are a lot more popular now than they were when I was a kid. When I was a kid, you were a comic nerd and you got made fun of, but I'm like, I don't care. This is something that I've loved ever since I was a kid. Star Wars, comics, and always gonna love it. So I'm kind of a big representative of all nerd comic things. We're not superheroes in the book. It's more science fiction, so it's drawing on influences that I really loved, like Dune. I love the Dune books, and Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep, which is what the movie Blade Runner was based on, and The Matrix, and things like that. And I wanted to have this kind of dystopian, a little bit of a deconstructed future where the planet is dying, and but it has a supernatural thing to it as well. There's these groups of people that are all having the same dream. They're dreaming of a gate that takes you to another universe that is, you know, a more innocent time, free of violence and pain and bigotry and all the stuff that we see all the time. So it's a little bit like a, can we get back to where we came from kind of an idea. So it has this cool, like, supernatural, spiritual undertones to the book.